A great question that we get a lot, and I actually had a call yesterday morning with a gentleman. What are my publishing options? They get referred to us because they might have mentioned to somebody, "Oh, I'm thinking about writing a book and I want to work with a traditional publisher." And typically someone will say, "Oh, you need to talk with Kathy first." So I love having these conversations because it gives me a chance to educate and at the same time point out the pros and cons of each of the 4 different levels of publishing. So you can start with DIY. That's a lot of people know that in our world today because you can go to Amazon and you can upload your files and they let you create a cover. You end up using their ISBN number, and that can be a pro or a con, depending on which side of the fence you're on. Pro because it's cheaper than going out and buying your own. The con is that it shows Amazon KDP as your publisher. And if that doesn't bother you, don't worry about it. The other con that you might negative that could be perceived is if you're designing your cover, are you really a book designer? How is that cover going to look? Are you going to let the computer generate it for you? Or are you going to upload your own photograph? Are you going to pick your own font? And are you going to make sure that that font can be easily seen? Those are things that you need to be asking yourself. Now, the other downside to Amazon only on DIY is that if you upload your book only to Amazon, Amazon is your only retailer. Amazon is simply a retailer just like Barnes& and Noble. Your book will not appear on Barnes& and Noble online. Your book will not be available in bookstores. I know the Barnes& and Nobles here in St. Louis, if your book is only on Amazon and someone goes into that bookstore and asks for your book, they'll look it up and they'll see that it's only on Amazon, and then they have to tell you very nicely, "I'm sorry, I can't get your book," because they won't order your book from Amazon. So the next step up from that, we'll go to the opposite side of the spectrum, which is going to be traditional publishing. Now, if you're seriously thinking about a traditional publisher, you need to start looking for an agent first. The best way to do that is go to Google. Let's say you're a children's book author and you want a traditional publisher. Then you go to Google and you put in the phrase book agent, children's book agent. That's probably the best thing, and see what pops up. The pro with doing a traditional route is that you get to work with an agent. They're going to represent you to those publishers. The tricky side is that first you need to sell yourself and your concept of your children's book to that agent. Then the agent has to completely buy into that and turn around and help you find a publisher. Quite often, some of the negatives are going to be you may think you have an illustrator already picked out, but especially for children's books, that publisher may want to use their own illustrator. The other con is, and to remember, is that whoever owns your ISBN is going to be the first person to get your royalties. So with a traditional publisher, they own the ISBNs. Your royalties for any sales will go to them first, and they will disperse it out to you. Now, a lot of the traditional publishers are still taking those royalties and then giving you a percentage of that, depending on how much you buy and how much you sell. But those agents, they're out there looking for people who have a large following already on social media. So if you feel that you fall into that category and you have tens, and I mean upper tens of thousands of followers on your social media, you're probably a good candidate for a traditional publisher. One of the other things, which I call my author be aware category in also the alternative publishing arena, you want to be very careful because there's a lot of people out there who will say that they are publishers, and more likely they are could easily be someone who has published one book on Amazon. I've seen this quite a bit where they'll figure out how to publish their own book on Amazon and they'll go, "Hey, I can do that for more people and I can charge for that." And again, you're only going to get Amazon.com as your distributor and as your retailer. So be aware there are certain trade phrases that they may use, like indie or hybrid or vanity. Those are typically types of kind of like morphing of alternatives publishers. So, like a vanity press is typically someone that will do cookbooks or family memoirs or short runs a lot of printing companies will call themselves vanity press. Hybrid publishers are people who you really want to be very careful for because they will charge you a fee up front, a smaller fee, and then they will keep your royalties. They will own the ISBN, so therefore they're going to get your royalties. They will keep those royalties until you reach a certain level of sales, and then they'll say, okay, now we can turn around and start sharing your royalties with you. You'll also want to be very careful because with a hybrid publisher, I've seen where they will, after 3 to 5 years, they'll allow you, in quotes, to buy your manuscript back. And the author that we worked with that was trying to get out of a contract with one of these hybrid publishers, they told her that she had to pay them $2,500 in order to get her manuscript back that she actually wrote. So you want to be very careful. You don't want to get in a situation that's going to be difficult to get out of. Now, the fourth category is the arena where we play, which is called author assisted. And quite often that's also called ghost publishing. So much like a ghostwriter who is in the background of your book, actually does all the writing for you, but is behind the scenes where they will write the book and you get all the accolades. A ghost publisher is very similar in that we set our authors up as their own independent publisher, but actually we're the ones that are publishing the book for them. And then we teach them how to go in and check their royalties and make sure that they're getting 100% of the copyright and 100% of the royalties. So I'm Kathy Davis, daviscreativepublishing.com. We're ghost publishers of solo books and anthologies. We do all the work and you get all the accolades.